I want to tell you something, and I need you to not laugh until I'm done. Because the laughing part, I get it. I would have laughed too. 3 weeks ago, if a guy sat across from me and said an alien woman walked out of the dark in his bedroom at 3 in the morning, I'd have nodded politely and figured out how fast I could leave. But she did, and the thing is, the part that ruined me wasn't that she was there. It was what she asked. Let me start where it actually started, which is not with her. It's with me, lying awake, because that detail matters more than I understood at the time. It was a Tuesday, or close to it, the kind of week where the days had stopped having names. I'd been sleeping maybe 3-4 hours a night and not in a row. I'd jerk awake at 2-something with my heart going like I'd been running. No dream I could remember, just the feeling that I'd forgotten to do something important and it was already too late to fix it. You want to know what kind of person I was at that point? I was 34 and I just watched the thing I built fall apart. Small thing. A little company, 4 people, we made software for warehouses, nothing you'd ever have heard of. 2 years of my life, and it didn't even die dramatically. It just slowly stopped mattering, the way a fire goes out when nobody's feeding it. And one morning I had to call 3 people I cared about and tell them there was no more money. I'm sorry, I tried, it's done. The I tried was the part that ate me, because I had tried, and it hadn't been enough. And I'd started thinking in that quiet, poisonous way you think at 3 a.m., that maybe trying was just a thing I told myself I did, a story I performed, and that underneath it I was somebody who folded. Somebody who quit and dressed it up in better words. So I wasn't sleeping. I was lying on top of the covers in a t-shirt and shorts because it was warm, one arm over my eyes, listening to the apartment. You learn the sounds of a place at 3 in the morning. The fridge has a cycle, it hums, then it clicks, then it sighs, then quiet. The pipes in the wall tick when somebody upstairs runs water. There's a streetlight outside my window that buzzes if you really listen. A car would go by sometimes and the headlights would crawl across the ceiling, left to right, and then it'd be dark again. That night the car light crawled across the ceiling, and it didn't go away. That's the first thing I want you to understand. There was no flash, no sound, no door. There was just a light that came across the ceiling and then stayed. A soft blue-white, steady, like a phone screen left on across the room. And I remember thinking, half asleep, that's weird. I didn't leave anything on and I took my arm off my eyes to look. And she was standing at the foot of my bed. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened to my body because people always describe fear like it's a feeling. It's not. It's a physical event. Something went cold down the back of my neck and across my shoulders like cold water, real water. I could have sworn I was wet. My hands closed. My breath stopped, not held, stopped, like the part of me that ran breathing just unplugged for a second. And there was this sound in my own ears, a high, thin ringing, that I now know was just my blood pressure trying to figure out whether to make me run or pass out. I didn't run. I didn't pass out. I just lay there, frozen, staring at the shape of a woman who absolutely should not have been in my room. She wasn't glowing exactly. The light was coming off her or near her, but it was soft, like she was standing in front of something bright that I couldn't see. Tall, taller than me, and I'm not short. Thin in a way that was wrong somehow, longer in the arms, longer in the neck, like someone had taken a person and gently stretched the proportions. Her skin was pale, but pale like the inside of a shell, with a faint color under it that shifted when she moved, blue going to gray going to something almost pink at the edges. Her face. I keep trying to describe her face and I keep failing. It was a face. 2 eyes, a mouth, the suggestion of a nose, but the eyes were too large and too dark, no white in them at all, just deep. And they were looking at me with an expression I recognized instantly, even though I'd never seen it on anything that wasn't human. She was terrified too. That's the detail nobody believes. They expect me to say she was cold or serene or that she beamed wisdom at me. She wasn't. She was standing in a stranger's room in the middle of the night on a planet that wasn't hers, and she was scared half to death, and I could see it, because fear looks the same on everything that can feel it. Her shoulders were up. Her hands were pressed flat against the front of her, this long gray garment, plain, like a robe but tighter, and her fingers were trembling. We just looked at each other. I don't know for how long. Long enough that the fridge finished its cycle and clicked off, and the silence got somehow louder. Then she opened her mouth, and a sound came out that wasn't language, a kind of rising chime, and at the same time, half a second behind it, a voice spoke. Not from her mouth. From the air around her, flat and even, the way a translation comes through a device. It said, "Please do not make noise. I am not here to harm you." And God help me, I said the dumbest thing a human being has ever said to a being from another world. I said, "Okay." Just okay, like she'd asked to borrow a charger. Here's the thing I've come to understand about that moment. When you're that scared, your brain stops trying to win. It just tries to survive the next 10 seconds. It looks for the smallest, safest thing it can do, and it does that thing. And the smallest, safest thing was to agree. So I agreed. I lay there in my shorts, with my heart trying to climb out of my throat, and I agreed not to scream. And somewhere in the back of my head, a tiny part of me was already going, "You are going to die, and your last word is going to be, okay." She let out a breath. I heard it, an actual breath, ragged, relieved. And that breath did something to me. It made her real. Not a hallucination, not a dream, not the lights doing something funny. A living thing, breathing out because it was relieved, the exact way I would. "Thank you," the voice said. "Are you?" I said, and my voice came out cracked. "What are you?" She tilted her head. The motion was too smooth, too far, like her neck had an extra joint. "You already know," the voice said. "You are only afraid to say it." She was right. I knew. There's a part of you that knows, instantly, the difference between a person in a costume and a thing that did not evolve on this planet. I knew. I just didn't want to be the one to say the word out loud, because saying it would make it the kind of night you don't come back from the same. "You're not from here," I said instead. "No," she said, and then softer, the chime under the words going down at the end. "I am very far from here." I sat up, slowly, both hands visible, the way you'd move around a strange dog. She tracked the movement, tensing, then settling when she understood I wasn't lunging for anything. "My name," she said, "is difficult in your mouth, but the closest sound is scenery. You may call me Scene." "Scene," I said. It came out wrong. The chime in it was the part I couldn't do. "Close enough," she said, and there was something in the way the translation delivered it, a dryness, that told me the joke was hers, not the machine's. She'd made a joke, to put me at ease. And it worked a little, which terrified me in a different way, because I realized I was being managed gently by something that understood exactly how scared people work. "I'm Adrian," I said. "Adrian," she said it back perfectly. The chime sound made it sound like the most beautiful name in the world for a second. "Adrian, I am sorry to come to you like this. I had no," the voice paused, hunting for a word, "no gentle way. There was no time to be gentle. I am sorry." "How did you get in?" I said. "There's no, the door's locked, the windows are, how are you in my room?" "That is not the question you want to ask," she said. She was right again, it wasn't. The question I wanted to ask, the one sitting on my chest like a stone, was, why me? She must have seen it. She lowered herself, not sat exactly, but folded down, all those long limbs articulating in ways that made my eyes hurt to follow, until she was crouched at the foot of my bed at roughly my eye level. Less of a tower, more of a person. Deliberate, I understood later. Everything she did that night was deliberate. She was working so hard to be small enough not to break me. "I will tell you who I am," she said, "and then I will ask you for something. And I need you to understand, Adrian, that the asking is the worst part, worse than the fear you feel now. So I will give you the fear first, because it is kinder, and the asking after when you are ready. Is that acceptable?" And see, that should have made me run. That's the line where, in the movie, you yell at the screen. She literally told me the worst was coming. She told me in advance that the question would be worse than waking up to an alien in your bedroom in the dark. I should have run. I said, "Tell me who you are." Because, and I've thought about this a lot, I think when you've already lost the thing you cared about, you stop being afraid of the right things. I'd spent 3 weeks lying awake feeling like nothing. And here was something looking at me like I was the most important thing in the universe. Even fear couldn't compete with that. I wanted to know why. "My people," Scene said, "are called the Sethri. You have never seen us. You will never meet another. I will explain why." The light around her shifted, dimmed, and in the space above her open hand a picture formed. Not a hologram like in films, sharp and glowing, but soft, like breath on cold glass, an image made of almost nothing. Stars. A spiral of them, slow turning. "This is the part of the sky we share," the voice said. "You and I, you cannot see most of it, dust, distance, but it is full, it has always been full. Thousands of peoples, Adrian, tens of thousands. We have known each other for longer than your species has had fire. We trade, we argue, we sing to one another across distances your mind cannot hold. It is old and it is crowded and it is," the chime dropped, mournful, "it was beautiful." "Was," I said. "Was," she agreed. The image changed. Somewhere in the spiral a single point of light went out, not dramatically. It just stopped. Like the streetlight outside my window when the city cuts the power before dawn. There 1 second, gone the next. And around it slowly, the points nearest it went dark too, one after another, a small spreading patch of nothing inside all that brightness. "We call it the fade," she said. "I do not know if your tongue has a word for what it is because I am not sure my own does, and we have studied it for 200 of your years. It is not a war. There is no enemy you can point to. It is more like," she searched again, "a silence that travels. It comes to a world or a fleet or a station full of millions of souls, and it does not destroy them. It quiets them. Their machines slow. Their signals weaken. Their will." She stopped. "Their will," she said, "goes out, like a flame with no air. They do not fight it. They do not flee. They simply gently stop. They lie down. And then there is one less light in the sky and the dark patch is a little larger than it was." I want to be honest about something. While she talked, part of me, the small, ugly survivor part, was thinking this is a trick. This is a scam. This is the most elaborate scam in human history. Somebody's filming me. Because that's what your brain does. It would rather you be the mark in a hoax than alive in a universe where a thing called the fade is real and coming. But I watched her hands while she talked about her people lying down to die. And her hands had stopped trembling from fear of me. They were trembling for a different reason now. The way your hands shake when you talk about something you've lost, and you're trying very hard to get through the sentence without falling apart. You can't fake that. I've tried. When my company died and people asked me how I was doing, I tried to fake exactly that. The steady voice over the shaking hands, and I could never quite get there. She wasn't acting. She was a person describing the end of everything she'd ever known, and she was holding it together by a thread. "How close," I said, "the dark patch, how close is it to?" "To you," she said. "To us." The image turned. The spiral wheeled. And the dark patch, the spreading silence, slid toward one specific edge of the light. An unremarkable corner of an unremarkable arm of an unremarkable galaxy, and a single tiny point on the very rim of it pulsed once, gently, to show me which one was home. The dark was close, not at the door, but in the neighborhood, the way a fire 3 streets over is close. "You have time," Scene said. "Not much by the measures we use, a great deal by yours, generations. Your great-grandchildren perhaps would be the first to see the sky begin to empty, but it comes. It has never once turned away. Every people that has measured its path has measured the same thing. It comes and it does not stop, and one by one we go quiet and the sky goes dark and there is nothing." The chime cracked, an ugly broken note. "There has never been anything any of us could do." The fridge clicked on. That stupid, ordinary sound. humming away in the dark while a woman from the other side of the galaxy told me the universe was dying from the inside out. "Why are you telling me?" I said. I'm nobody. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a president, I lost my job. I run software for warehouses. I don't even do that anymore. You came to the wrong room. Whatever you need, I'm not the guy. There are people who run the whole planet. You need someone important. I'm a nobody who can't sleep. And here's where it happened. Here's the moment that I've replayed every single night since, lying in the exact same bed, looking at the exact same ceiling, waiting for a light that hasn't come back. Scene looked at me. Those huge dark eyes, no white in them, and somehow more readable than any human face I've ever seen. And the voice, the flat translated voice, said something that the chime underneath it made sound like grief and hope at the same time. "I did not come to the wrong room, Adrian. You came to me because you are a nobody who cannot sleep," she said. "Yes, that is exactly why. Now I have to explain the part that's hard, because this is where the whole story turns, and if I get it wrong, you'll think I'm telling you I'm special. I'm not. The entire point, the entire gut-punch point of what she came to tell me is that I'm not special at all. That's the thing. That's the whole thing. There is a question," Scene said, "that every people in the sky has asked since the fade was first measured. We have asked it of our greatest minds, our oldest archives, our deepest machines. The question is simple. The question is, when a thing is certain, what is the correct response?" She let that sit. "Among my people," she said, "and among nearly all peoples in the sky, the answer is known. It is not even a question we feel we must struggle with. When a thing is certain, you accept it. This is wisdom. This is maturity. A child rages against what cannot be changed. An adult makes peace with it. A wise people facing a certain end does not waste its final generations in panic or false hope. It puts its affairs in order. It records its songs. It says its goodbyes. And when the silence comes, it does not fight, because fighting the certain is the behavior of fools and children. It lies down, with dignity. We have a word for it. The closest your language has is." The voice paused. "Grace," it said. "We meet our end with grace. Every people in the sky meets its end with grace. We are proud of this. It is, we believe, the highest thing a civilization can do." She leaned closer. The light bent around her. "And then," she said, 200 of your years ago, our long-range instruments caught a signal from a small blue world on the rim. A world we had cataloged and dismissed as too young, too violent, too poor to matter. And in that signal we found something we had never measured before, something we did not at first have any word for." "What?" I said. "We found a species," Scene said, "that does not accept certainty, ever, under any circumstances at all." I didn't get it. Not yet. I want you to sit in the not getting it with me for a second, because that's where I was. I thought she was complimenting us. I thought she was about to tell me humans were brave or strong or clever. The usual flattering story a species tells about itself. That's not what she meant. What she meant was much stranger and much worse, and it took me the rest of the night to understand. "Let me show you what we found," she said. The image above her hand changed again, and this time it wasn't stars, it was us. A man on a screen in grainy old footage. A runner, the very last of a race, so far behind the others had already gone home, staggering, falling, getting up, finishing a race that meant nothing to anyone anymore, on legs that had clearly already lost. A crowd on its feet screaming for a man in last place. A small boat in an enormous storm. A single figure bailing water with a bucket against a sea that was obviously, mathematically, going to win. A field hospital. A doctor working on a body that the readouts, even I could read the flat green line, said was already gone, working past the point of sense, past the point of dignity, sweat on his face, refusing to call it. A child at a window holding a sign for a parent who, the angle of the other faces told you, was not coming back. image after image after image. And the chime under scene's voice climbed higher and higher, into something I can only call wonder, the way your voice goes up when you're describing a thing you cannot believe is real. "Do you see it?" she said. "Do you see what you do?" "They're just," I said. "Those are just people not giving up. Anyone would." "No," Scene said, and the word came out sharp, the only sharp thing she'd said all night. "No, not anyone, not anything. Adrian, listen to me. There is no other people in all the sky that does this. Not one. When the math is decided, every other species in this galaxy stops. It is the sane thing to do. It is the wise thing. We are built for it. Our minds settle into acceptance the way water settles into the lowest place. It is comfortable, it is correct, it is peace." Her hands came up, open, helpless. "And then there is you. Your kind looks at a thing that is already decided, already lost, already certain. And something in you, every one of you, the great and the small, the brilliant and the foolish, the runner in last place and the doctor over the dead body and the child at the window, something in you stands up and says no." The image stopped and held on the runner. Last place, falling, getting up. "You say no to certainty," Scene breathed. "You do it without thinking. You do it when it is stupid. You do it when it costs you everything and wins you nothing. You do it when every law of sense in the universe tells you to lie down, and you will not lie down, you cannot lie down, it is not in you to lie down." The chime broke again, that ugly, beautiful crack. "Do you understand what you are to a galaxy that is dying with grace? Do you understand what it is, to a people who have made peace with the silence, to look up and see one small blue world that has never once, in all its short and violent history, made peace with anything?" I couldn't speak. I'm not ashamed to tell you my eyes were stinging, because she was describing the thing I'd spent 3 weeks hating myself for failing at, trying, getting up, and she was telling me it wasn't a small thing. She was telling me it was the only thing, the one thing nobody else in a galaxy of tens of thousands could do. "So you came for our technology," I said, thrash, grasping. "Or you want to study us or take some of us, or—" "No," she said. "Then what?" I said. "What could you possibly want from a species that just refuses to quit? You said yourself it doesn't work. You said the fade always comes. You said no one's ever stopped it, so what good is it? What good is refusing to accept a thing that's true? We'd just be the runner in last place, right? We just lose anyway, but slower and screaming. What's the point of that? What do you actually want?" And Scenery went very still. The light around her steadied. The trembling in her hands stopped, and her two large eyes fixed on me with something I can only call resolve, the look of someone about to say the thing they crossed a galaxy to say and are not sure they can survive saying. "This," she said quietly, "is the asking. This is the part I warned you would be worse." The fridge clicked off. The streetlight buzzed. Somewhere far away a car started and didn't come near. "We have decided to fight," Scene said. "My people, for the first time in our history, against the certain thing. We have decided to do the human thing, to stand up and say no to the fade, even knowing the math, even knowing every people before us has measured the same defeat." Her voice dropped to almost nothing, the chime a single held note. "But Adrian, we do not know how. It is not in us. We can read every record you have ever made of it. We can watch your runner fall 1,000 times. And we still cannot feel the thing that makes him get up. We have tried. For 200 years we have tried to learn it from the outside, and we cannot. It cannot be learned from a recording. It can only be." She stopped and looked at me, and I understood all at once what she was going to ask half a second before she asked it. "It can only be shown," she said, "by one of you, standing in front of us, when the silence begins to take us, refusing where we can see it, where we can feel it, so that we can learn, finally, before the end, how to refuse too." She reached out one long pale hand, palm up, between us, across the foot of my bed, in the blue-white light, at 3 in the morning, in a small apartment on a small blue world on the rim of a dying sky. "I'm not asking for your weapons," Scenery said. "I'm not asking for your machines. I'm asking for you to come with me, To stand before my people as the silence falls and show them how a human being refuses to die. It is very far. It is the rest of your life. You will never see this room again or this world or anyone you have ever loved. Her hand did not waver. And I came to you, the nobody who cannot sleep, the one who tried and failed and got up anyway and hates himself for it. Because that, Adrian, that exact thing you hate about yourself, is the most valuable thing in the universe. And I need it. And I am so sorry, but I am here to ask you to give it to us. I didn't answer her. I want you to understand that because it's the part people skip when they imagine how they'd react. They picture the big moment, the brave yes, the swelling music. That's not how it goes when someone asks you to leave your entire life forever. Your mouth doesn't work. Your brain doesn't produce a sentence. You just sit there with your heart going and a stranger's hand held open in the dark, and the only thought you can find is no, that's insane, and right under it, quieter, why does part of me already know I'm going to do it? Scene didn't push. She let her hand stay where it was for a moment, then drew it back slow and folded it into the other one in her lap. You do not have to answer now, she said. I would not trust an answer you gave now. Fear makes people brave for the wrong reasons. I will come back, one time, and you will tell me then. The chime under her voice went gentle. I am sorry I cannot give you longer. There is very little time by the measures we use. How long? I said. My voice came out wrong. How long do I have to decide? By your measures, she said. 4 days. And then the light bent and folded, and she did the thing she'd done to arrive, except in reverse, somehow. The room getting darker not because she left but because she stopped being the kind of thing that's in a room. The blue-white crawled back across the ceiling, right to left this time, and went out at the window. And I was alone, sitting up in bed in my shorts at 3 in the morning, with the fridge humming and my hands shaking, and absolutely no way to ever explain to a single living person what had just happened to me. I'm going to be honest about the 4 days. Because the 4 days are where I stopped being a guy in a story and started being a guy making a decision. And those are different things. The first day I didn't believe it. I decided it was a dream, a vivid one, a stress thing, 3 weeks of no sleep finally cashing in. I went to the kitchen and made coffee and told myself the word psychotic break a few times to see if it fit, and it almost did, and I almost let it, except I'd remembered her name, Scenery. And the thing about a dream is it doesn't survive daylight intact. The names go runny, the faces blur. Hers didn't. If anything, she got sharper as the day went on. The way she folded down to my eye level so she wouldn't loom. The crack in the chime when she said grace. The exact open weight of her hand held out across the foot of my bed. You don't remember a dream like that. You remember a Tuesday like that. The second day I got angry. Really angry. I walked around the apartment furious at her, at the whole thing, this absurd cosmic unfairness. Why me? Why now? Why drop the entire weight of a dying galaxy on the one guy who'd just proven he couldn't even keep 4 people employed? I yelled at the empty room. I genuinely did. I stood in my kitchen and yelled at a woman from the other side of the sky that she'd picked wrong, that I was exactly the kind of person who folds, that she'd watched the runner get up and somehow looked at me and seen the same thing, and she was wrong. She'd made a mistake. I was the proof that the human thing wasn't even real because I'd had a thing worth not quitting on and I'd quit. I was crying by the end of it. Not sad crying. The other kind. The kind where you're saying the true thing out loud for the first time and it costs you. And in the middle of it, snot and all, leaning on the counter, I heard what I was actually saying. I was saying I quit. About the company. I'd been telling myself that for 3 weeks. I tried and I failed, and underneath the trying I'm someone who folds. But that's not what had happened. What had happened was, the money ran out. The math decided. And I had made 3 phone calls I will hear in my head until the day I die, and I had said I'm sorry, I tried, it's done. And then the next morning I had gotten up. I had updated my resume. I had started looking. I had kept going. Badly, sleeplessly, hating it, but going. I hadn't quit. I'd lost. Those are different things, and a galaxy full of wise people who lie down with grace apparently can't tell the difference, but I could, standing in my kitchen at noon with my face a mess. I hadn't lain down. I'd never once in my whole short, violent, stupid life lain down. That was the day I knew what I was going to tell her. The third day was the worst, because the third day was the goodbyes. I couldn't tell anyone the truth. Who could I tell? So I did it sideways. I called my mother and talked to her for 2 hours about nothing, about her garden, about a show she liked, and I let her talk. And I closed my eyes and just listened to her voice. And at the end I told her I loved her in a way that made her go quiet and ask if I was okay. And I said, yes, Ma, I'm okay. I'm better than I've been in a while, and that part was true. I texted the 3 people from the company. Just checking in. Wanted you to know it wasn't for nothing. Wanted you to know I'd do it again. They didn't fully understand the energy of it, and that's all right. One of them sent back a heart. That was enough. That was more than enough. I walked around my own neighborhood like a ghost, looking at things. The corner where the good bread is. The park with the dog that always barks at the same crack in the pavement. The way the light comes down through the one big tree on my street at the end of the day, gold and moving. I'd lived there 2 years and never once looked at it, and now I had 3 days, and I looked at it like I was trying to fit it inside me to take it somewhere it could never go. You want to know the truth? I've been so empty for 3 weeks, so flat and gray and done. And it took an alien woman telling me the universe was dying to make me fall completely, stupidly, painfully in love with being alive, with bread, with a barking dog, with gold light in a tree. The cruelty of the timing nearly broke me. The gift of it, getting to feel all of it again before the end, I'll never be able to repay. She came back on the 4th night, 3 in the morning, of course. The light crawled across the ceiling and stayed, and I was already awake, sitting up, dressed, waiting. You have decided, Scene said, not a question, she could see it. Have one thing to ask you first, I said. Ask. You said it always wins, the fade. You said no one's ever stopped it. You said even if I come, even if I show your people how to refuse, the math doesn't change. You'll lose anyway, right? I need you to tell me the truth. Am I coming to win, or am I coming to lose slower? And Scenery, who had not lied to me once, who had warned me the asking would be worse, who had crossed the dark to find the one nobody who couldn't sleep, looked at me with those huge dark eyes and gave me the most human answer I have ever heard from anything. I do not know, she said. You don't know. That is the thing your kind taught us, Adrian. That is the whole of it. Her hands opened. For 200 years we knew. We knew the answer, and the answer was that it could not be done, and knowing was our peace and our prison. And then we watched your runner get up in last place, and we understood finally that knowing the end and deciding the end are not the same. The math says we lose. The math has always said we lose, but the math does not get to decide whether we stand up. Only we decide that. That is the thing we cannot do alone. That is the thing I have come to ask you to teach us. Her voice dropped. So I will not lie to you. I do not know if we can win. I think by every measure I trust that we cannot. And I am asking you to come and refuse anyway, because the refusing is the point. The refusing is the only thing in this whole dying sky that was ever ours to choose. I stood up off the bed. Then that's the right reason, I said. That's the only reason I'd have trusted. I walked to the foot of the bed into the blue-white light, and I put my hand in her open hand, and her fingers were cool and too long, and they closed around mine, trembling, not with fear this time. Okay, I said, the same word I'd said when she first appeared. The dumbest word in the universe. It felt this time like the bravest. Okay, let's go say no. I can't describe the journey. I've tried. There aren't words that survive it. I'll just tell you it was long and it was strange. And somewhere in the middle of it I stopped being only Adrian from the warehouse software and started being something both smaller and larger, one human being, carrying the one human thing very far from home. I'll skip to the end. To the part I actually came back to tell you. The reason I'm here talking to you when I should be 100,000 years of light away. When the silence came for the Sethri, it came the way she said it would. Gentle. That was the horror of it. There was no fire, no enemy, no army at the gates. There was just a quieting. I felt it before I understood it. The great halls of her people, full of that chiming song they make, started to go soft. Voices trailed off mid-sentence. People set down what they were holding and looked at nothing with a calm, settling expression I recognized. I'd seen it in my own mirror 3 weeks before she found me. The look of the math has decided, and there's peace in lying down. They began all around me to lie down, not dramatically. That's what I can't make anyone understand. There was no struggle. There was a whole civilization, tens of millions of beings gently, gracefully agreeing to stop, lying down in their halls and their homes and their ships, closing those huge dark eyes. The chiming song fading note by note toward a silence that had eaten 10,000 peoples before them and felt no different doing it to one more. And I felt it pulling at me too. That's the part nobody warns you about. The fade doesn't argue, it doesn't threaten. It just makes lying down feel correct. It reached into me and it found the 3 weeks of gray, the flat done-nothing feeling, the part of me that had stood in my kitchen and said I quit, and it pulled on that part gently, lovingly. Come on, it's decided. It was always decided, lie down, it's all right, it's so much easier, just stop. And I want you to know it almost won. Even me. Even the one they crossed the sky to find. For one long moment in the fading light of a dying world, I felt my knees start to soften. And the silence was so warm and so reasonable and so kind. Sineri was beside me, already sinking. Her people's certainty was in her bones, 200,000 years deep, and even she who had flown across a galaxy on the strength of an idea she'd learned from a recording of a man falling down, even she was lying down. Her hand found mine as she sank, cool, trembling, and the chime in her voice was barely there, almost gone when she said the last thing, the thing she'd come all that way to be able to ask in person. Show me, she breathed. Show me how, while I can still see. And here's the thing, here's the whole entire thing. I didn't feel brave. I want that on the record. I didn't feel like the runner. I felt the pull, same as them, every cell in me saying lie down, it's decided, it's easier, stop. I just didn't, that's it. That's the human thing. It isn't a feeling, it isn't strength. It's not even hope. I didn't have hope, the math was clear, I knew we'd lose. It's just this. When the whole universe tells you it's decided, something in you that doesn't even have a name stands up and says no. Not because you'll win, not because it's smart, not because anyone's watching, just because lying down is a thing you will not do, and you don't fully know why, and you don't need to. So I locked my knees. And I pulled Sineri's hand hard up against the warm tide of the silence, and I got loud. I made the most ridiculous, undignified human noise in that vast, quiet hall. I yelled. No, I said, no, get up. We're not doing this. I don't care that it's decided. I don't care that it always wins. I don't care, get up. And I hauled on her arm and I yelled into the fatting faces of a dying people. Get up, I know it's easier. I know it's decided, get up anyway. And Sineri's huge dark eyes, half closed, sinking, found mine. And I watched her feel it. The thing that can't be learned from a recording. The thing that can only be shown. I watched it cross from me into her like a current finding a wire, not a feeling, not a thought, just the bare animal refusal, the no with no reason behind it, and her hand in mine tightened. And she stopped lying down, and she stood up. In the middle of the silence that had never lost, on a dying world against the math, with no hope and no plan and no reason that would survive a single second of cold analysis, one of the Sethri stood back up and turned to the nearest of her sinking people and pulled on their arm and made, in her chiming voice, the most beautiful, undignified, ugly no I have ever heard. And then there were 2 of us. And then there were 4. I'm not going to tell you we won. I told you I wouldn't lie, and she never lied to me, and I'm not going to start now. I don't know if we won. When they sent me back, and they did send me back, that was the deal, that was the kindness. Go home and tell them, Adrian. Tell your people what they are, because they do not know. When they sent me back, the silence was still falling. The math was still the math. The fade had never once turned away, and it had not turned away that day. But it was the first time in the recorded history of the entire sky that a people facing the certain end had stood back up. Tens of millions of them, loud, refusing, yelling their chiming ridiculous no into a dark that had swallowed 10,000 graceful civilizations and had never, not once, met one that would not lie down. I don't know if that's enough. Maybe it isn't. Maybe the fade takes them anyway, slower, screaming like the runner in last place. Maybe refusing the certain thing changes nothing in the end. Or maybe, and this is the thought I hold onto, lying in my same old bed, looking at my same old ceiling, waiting for a light that hasn't come back, maybe nobody ever tried before. Maybe in all those 10,000 graceful endings, the reason the fade always won is that nothing ever fought. Maybe the math only holds because everyone before us agreed to let it. Maybe the one variable a galaxy of wise, peaceful, accepting peoples never thought to test was the stupid blue world refusal of one species that doesn't know how to lie down. I don't know. I'll never know. That's the price of the ticket home, so that's it. That's what I came back to tell you. That's why I'm sitting here saying this to anyone who will listen, knowing exactly how it sounds. An alien woman appeared in my room at 3 in the morning. And what she asked was worse than the fear, worse than the dark, worse than the end of everything, because what she asked was for me to leave the whole world behind and go teach a dying galaxy the one thing my own kind doesn't even know we're doing. We think it's nothing. We think getting up is nothing. We hate ourselves, the way I hated myself for trying and failing and getting up again like fools. We call it stubbornness. We call it not knowing when to quit. We apologize for it, don't. Out there in a sky full of beautiful wise peoples who meet their endings with grace, the most precious thing in all of creation is the one thing you do without thinking. On your worst night in last place, over a body that's already gone, at a window holding a sign for someone who isn't coming back. You stand up. When everything that's true and smart and certain tells you to lie down, you stand up. So if you're lying awake right now at 3 in the morning, flat and gray, and certain it's all decided, listen to me. Listen to the one human being a dying galaxy crossed the dark to find. Get up. Get up anyway. It's the only thing in the whole dying sky that was ever yours to choose.